Hello, we are here for one more lesson of this AxisVM training course, and the topic for today will be the icon toolbar. In fact, the lessons about this icon toolbar will be several. The topics we need to see are quite numerous, so we will divide or split this icon toolbar in several lessons. The first one will be the one that we are talking about, and we are going to see a couple of functionalities and leave the remaining ones for the future videos of this course. So the icon toolbar is this icon here. This is the first interesting point to notice, because we can drag the toolbars from a static position to any place inside the software, so as I'm doing now, and I can drag it and put it again on the same place. So this is one functionality that is I would say standard in AxisVM, so you can drag these and docking them on one place or other, so there will be no issue. We have a standard position for the toolbars and all the things that we see in our screen, which we can ask to put everything as standard. But the important and first thing to notice today, it is this functionality. Inside this toolbar, we have a couple of things. To prepare and to check what we have inside, I've opened this model. So again, it's something that we can use this one or other model. It's not very important. We'll try to see all the functionalities of this lesson with this model. So the first icon is something called selection. And when we activate it, we get this smaller dialog box where we have options to select things in our drawing area. So first mode is the mode to add things. So if I click in elements, I'm adding new elements to the selection. And if I click in this sign, the minus, so I'm taking out from selection items. In this one, the plus and minus, this will invert the selection that we are doing. So if I have this and this one, for example, if I go on this one, then if I select all, so I select everything with the exception of these two guys, okay? So as I've used, this sign here is to select all. The next one is to come to the previous selection, which I'm not sure if it was sum. And with this icon here, we can open this smaller dialog box where I can select parts. So I can select among several things that I have defined for this particular model through materials, cross sections. So you see that I'm using different things with the splits I have here. So it's another possibility to select things. Then we have an option for filter where I can specify filtering criteria. So I have everything selected, but so when I'm using selection, so around here I'm selecting everything, but I can have filters for elements, dimensions, for a lot of things. And I have still also a button which opens me some additional possibilities like materials, cross sections, dimensions, so I can have use of a lot of things. Then I have also the method of selection, which in fact is a set of windows which I can open. I will click, let me do the cancel now. If I click on this in this button, so I get all these options. The first one, it is a simple window which I can select like this, So do it again, and when I have an element that's fully inside, I get it selected. So I have this one, which is called the skewed rectangle, which basically it is a rectangle, but like this, so I can define a direction. I have this one that is a polyline. So polyline I can open and select like this, okay, and make a selection. Oh, I came out. I have others like this called sectorial, which opens a round section, and a very similar one. This is called the annular, which is basically the same, but with a second choice for the inner radius. And finally, one that is called the intersected line. So if I do a line like this, in all the entities that the line touches, they will be selected. So these are the options for selection. Then I have a couple of possibilities for zooms. So first, zoom in. The second one, zoom out, something like this. I have something called the fit. This will put the entities that we have in our screen occupying the maximum possible space in our visible area. I have this one that is drag, so I can drag with my mouse. So I have my left button in my mouse click, and I'm holding the key so that I can drag. I can apply a couple of rotations, and when I click on that option, I get this small dialog box with options, or this toolbar. Better saying this is a toolbar, not a dialog box, with rotation options. Among these options, I have this one, which allows me to make a free rotation. I have the second one, which rotates around Z, so I have the other axis blocked. This icon here rotates around the vertical axis of my screen, and the same for the horizontal axis of my screen. This option here makes the rotation around an axis perpendicular to the screen, so a little different. An option also to rotate rotation around the bounding box of the elements that are in my screen. The possibility to define a point to apply as a center of rotation, and I can show it or not. Okay, so a couple of options also still regarding this handling of zooms. Furthermore, we have this previous zoom, and if I have one zoom to go back, I have one to move forward. So I think quite easy to understand. Then I have views, very simple. So views that are shown from what is the position to apply them. So one type of view, the ZX, the YX or top view, ZY, perspective one, and one last option where I can choose from the other ones to apply a view. So also quite easy to understand and to apply. Then I have some functions that they are called display mode. So 4 modes. The first one is the wireframe, which it is the one selected. Second one, it's hidden mode, which will create a wireframe model but with hidden line removed, in this particular case I don't have that possibility because I have only lines. Then I have a render mode, okay, which apply a render to the elements that are defined. And I have a texture mode, which apply a texture to the same elements, but according to the materials. I have a couple of interesting features around these modes, because, for example, I can apply some options, not in here, sorry. I can apply a couple of options in the render mode, which allow me to make some possibilities around what I am seeing in terms of the color coding. And I can do this, sorry, I can apply this on this color coding, which define me the type of colors for the different type of elements. So line elements, I have this type of color coding. In this particular case, I can define new ones, the default, okay, the type, and I get different colors which I can change, okay, or other according to materials, whatever it is, for all these types. Then I can make changes. I can define gradients, okay, shorter arc, longer arc, and I can apply different things, and so on. Okay, a lot of different possibilities to apply this color coding. Finally, I will change to the wireframe, which it's easier to handle. Finally, we have a couple of options, capabilities that are called spatial transformations on objects. So I have 4 types, and first one, it is the translate. So we can choose a couple of elements. Let us apply this now in all the elements. So all, I do OK, and I get this dialog box where I can do a translate copy. I can define the number of copies. So I have this graphic that shows what I'm doing. I can apply different methods, and if I change a method, I get a graphic of what is going on, and this is what happens for the other things. So incremental one, we can distribute if we have, when we give a dimension to apply this transformation, the behavior will be to distribute the number of copies by that distance. We can spread this by distance. We can do a consecutive translate copy. We can simply move, or we can detach it. So incremental 2 will connect the nodes. We can copy elements, copy loads. In this particular case, it doesn't matter. So if I choose other options, I have other things. So it's simply OK. And I'm being asked for a point. So let us say this point here, and I get to this place here, and I get 2 copies of the same model. So this is what we do in terms of the translate. Now it is basically the same. Second one, it is called rotation. I will create the same thing. I get the same, basically the same options. So incremental, distribute, spread by angle, because in this particular case I'm using a rotation, and so on. So I can have also a couple of options here depending of what we are doing. I can insert also a factor of the height. I will not do it. So rotation center, and you see I can apply something like this, okay, and it is done. Next one, it is a mirror, so let us do again the all selection. I can create copy, multiple copies also, and or detach elements, simply a copy everything. I have a special option here that it is called mirror local x-axis of line elements. It's not the case in this particular example. So simply OK. And now I must give 2 points to define mirror plane. So I will again use this point here, and I will use that point over there, and I get something like this. Very easy also to apply. Last option, it is a factor, a scale factor. So again, all the elements, let us say 1 or more, I will say simply 1. Again, distribute, resize if it is the case. I don't want to resize. So scale center point, this one here, and apply it around here, and I get something like this. Okay, something like this. So all of these options I think are pretty much easy to understand and to apply, no big deal. So I hope all of these examples were clear, and for sure if you have some questions, not so clear points that we may have mentioned on the video, and there are some doubts in your mind, you can reach us through the usual ways. It is important to mention also that we have a much detailed document in our online platform, which I strongly recommend you to check and to see all the minor details that we may have missed on the video. So also give us a contact in case you are interested in reaching that document.